So I was reading the book of Joshua last night, and I started to notice some rapture parallels, and then the Holy Spirit started showing me some stuff. So I'm going to try to share that with you guys tonight. So I'm in Joshua chapter 6. The Israelites under Joshua, just crossed the Jordan, and they entered into Canaan, and now they have to start conquering the cities of Canaan. And they start with the city of Jericho. And so that's what chapter 6 is about. It's about conquering Jericho. And so it starts with the Lord giving Joshua instructions on how to conquer Jericho. So I guess I'll just start reading in verse 3 here. This is the Lord giving instructions to Joshua. And ye shall compass the city, all ye men of war, and go round about the city once. Thus shalt thou do 6 days. And 7 priests shall bear before the ark 7 trumpets of ram's horns. And the 7th day ye shall compass the city 7 times, and the priests shall blow with the trumpets. And it shall come to pass that when they make a long blast with the ram's horn, and when ye hear the sound of the trumpet, all the people shall shout with a great shout, and the wall of the city shall fall down flat, and the people shall ascend up, every man straight before him. So, yeah, that last verse really is quite an amazing rapture parallel. You've got a trumpet blast, right? And then you've got a shout, just like 1 Thessalonians 4:16, for the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout. And then you've got people ascending up. So they got me thinking that maybe the stuff that's happening in this scenario here is some sort of encoded information about the time just before the rapture. So what do we have here? You've got the men of war and the Ark of the Covenant and the priests, right? Marching around Jericho. Okay, so for 6 days, once a day, they march around Jericho. Okay, and then on the 7th day, they march around Jericho 7 times. So there's actually 13 revolutions of Jericho. And you've got, in addition to that, amongst the people marching, you've got 7 priests, each having a trumpet, a shofar, okay? And so that's 7 shofars. And what I was thinking was that so I was basically thinking that the days correspond to years, right, in this scenario. And it's a sort of astronomical, it's symbolizing what's going on at an astronomical level. Okay, what I mean by that is if you take days here to mean years, and then you have Jericho, the city, representing the earth, and then so if the the Israelites are marching around Jericho once in a day, but like I said, that's a year, right? So it's like there's a revolution around Jericho one time for this 1 year, right? And well, what revolves around the earth, in once in a year? The sun. Now I know that the earth actually revolves around the sun, but you have to appreciate that this is going to be all from the perspective, the worldly perspective, right? The earthly perspective, okay? So there's that, and that happens for 6 days, right, corresponding to 6 years, right? You have got this the Israelites playing the role of the sun, and then on the 7th day, the Israelites go around 7 times, right? So that can't possibly be the sun in that instance, okay, on that day, or year, I should say, right? So there's, it would have to be the moon, okay? And so the moon will go around the earth, so to speak, right? 12 times in a year. So I drew a little picture to sort of illustrate what I'm talking about. Okay. So these pictures here show what I'm talking about. So the sun quote unquote, going around the earth, right? You have to bear with me on that. Just like the Israelites going around Jericho. So the earth is like Jericho. And then down here, you've got the moon instead of the sun revolving around the earth, right? So, like it says, you march around the city once a day for 6 days, okay? And then the days equal year. One day equals 1 year. And so if you start in 2017, right, which was the year of the Revelation 12 sign. Let me try to zoom out a little bit here. Yeah, you can see it right there. I put that in the picture. So then that year starting in Nisan 1, okay? So that's the first revolution of the Israelites around the city of Jericho, okay? So you've got 6 days of that corresponding to 6 years. That's 6 revolutions of the sun around the earth. Okay, and then on the 7th day, like I said, that can't be referring to the sun anymore because the sun doesn't go around the earth multiple times in 1 year. It only happens once. So then I think what's happening is the symbolism is switching to the moon. The Israelites now are not the sun, but they're the moon, and they go around 7 times. So if they're going around 7 times, that's the first 7 months of the year, starting in Nisan. So the first month Nisan, second Iyar, third Sivan, fourth Tammuz, fifth is the month of Av, sixth is Elul, and seventh is Tishri. And then what happens? So what happens after that? So after that last revolution around the city on the 7th day, then they blow the trumpet and they all shout and they ascend up into the city. Okay? So that would have to happen after the conclusion of Tishri, because that final revolution around Jericho has to be done, which means that this month of Tishri has to be over. So that means you're now in the month of Heshvan, okay? And it can't be anything later. It can't be like Kislev or something like that, which is the 9th month, because then it would have said that for them to go around the city 8 times on the 7th day, right? So it has to be in Heshvan, the 8th month, when they quote unquote ascend up, right? When you hear the shout and they ascend up, okay? And so I take that to be the symbolizing the rapture. So that's why I have this little guy here. He's supposed to be a warrior shouting. Okay, I don't know. He just looks like an angry guy with a Amish beard and a little sword. But that's the sort of information that I think is being encoded in there. And the other bit of information in this scenario is you've got these 7 priests, and each one has a shofar. Okay, so that means there are 7 shofars, and I think these shofars correspond to feasts of trumpets. Okay, because there are actually between 2017 and Heshvan of 2023, there are exactly 7 feasts of trumpets corresponding to those shofars that the priests are carrying. You've got 2017 starts Nisan 1, and then on the first of the 7th month, you've got that Feast of Trumpets. And that was, so the first shofar here, the first Feast of Trumpets, was the Revelation 12 sign Feast of Trumpets. And then, of course, and so on, right? So, like, the rest of these shofars here correspond to the Feasts of Trumpets in the subsequent years, right? For 2018, 2019, and so on. And then when you get to 2023, you've got in the 7th month here in Tishri, you've got the Feast of Trumpets, right? Of course, all of this really is assumes what I've explained in the past, which is that we're a month off compared to the official Jewish calendar. So according to, let me just pull up the dates here. Okay, so what I do to find the correct dates of Heshvan is I just look at Torah calendar for month 9, right? Because it really should be month 8. And according to Torah calendar, it's yeah. So anytime between month of Heshvan began on November 16th. Well, technically it began on November 15th at sunset, but I'm not going to complicate it. So I'm just going to say November 16th. And it ends, and the last day of Heshvan is going to be on December 14th, right? So right around Hanukkah, sort of the end of Hanukkah. Yeah, so based on this, if this is correct, if I'm not just crazy, if this is actually the information that's being encoded there, then the rapture should happen sometime in the month of Heshvan, which, according to my views on the calendar being 1 month off, should be anywhere between November 16th, which is already passed, so anywhere from now until December, let's say December 15th, right? Because December 14th is the last day of Heshvan, which is pretty exciting. And so yeah, I'm still on track for looking for the rapture to happen in 2023. So I just thought that was kind of neat. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Oh, and one more thing. Let's see. I also, in one of my past videos, I was talking about the spreadsheet that I had created. And this is basically a Bible chronology. And this chronology is a little bit different in that I don't track just Anno Mundi, but I track another year count in parallel. I call it Anno Fall. So that's years since the fall, or since the sin event. And that's running 7 years behind Anno Mundi, because according to Jubilees chapter 3, Adam and Eve were in the garden for 7 years prior to the sin event, which caused them to get kicked out. So 8 Anno Mundi is 1 Anno Fall. And I mentioned in past videos where I talked about the spreadsheet that that 7 year gap or differential, that time period in the beginning of time, is this really nice parallel to the exact same parallel or the exact same 7 year period at the end of time. Because in the beginning of time, you have Adam with his bride Eve in a sort of paradise, the Garden of Eden, for 7 years. And at the end of time, between 2023 and 2030, you've got another 7 year period. But this is the last Adam, Jesus Christ, with his bride, the church, in heaven, which is another paradise, obviously. And of course, on earth, it's going to be the tribulation period. So when I was first showing this spreadsheet in some of the past videos, it was pretty barren. I mean, I just really had just recently constructed it and had put the years in, and I only really had a few events. But since then, I inputted a lot of historical biblical events. Like I got all the birth and death dates of the biblical patriarchs. I got it going all the way to the time of Abraham. I get the Abrahamic covenant year in there. I've got the Exodus and the crossing of the Jordan. I've got events in the life of David. I've got the construction of the first temple. I've got the beginning of the Daniel 70 weeks prophecy. I think that's it. Obviously, I even in the beginning, I had the events of Jesus's life, the crucifixion, and so on. So yeah, but it's really cool to see when you start putting in biblical events to see where things line up, and did they happen to land on a jubilee according to these jubilee counts that I'm tracking here, based on the first one's based on the entrance into the Garden of Eden, and this other one is Sin Jubilee is based on the entrance into the world as a land, right? Because they got kicked out of the Garden of Eden, and then this other Jubilee is based on the entrance into Canaan of the the Israelite nation. So one thing I noticed when I was working with this spreadsheet, it's not really proof or anything, but it's kind of like this really, really cool, like numerical coincidences, which become sort of confirmations to me that this chronology is correctly lined up. It's like correctly lining up Anno Mundi to the corresponding BC AD date. So if you see here in Anno Mundi, one Anno Mundi I have at 3978 BC. And one Anno Fall I have starting on 3971 BC. And it's an amazing coincidence that 3978 is equal to 1948 plus 2030. And 3971 is equal to 1948 plus 2023. I found that such a great coincidence numerically. Another one I found, one of these numerical coincidences, is this one. So 2030 Anno Mundi is 2023 Anno Fall. Now that by itself is nothing too amazing, because Anno Fall year is always going to be lagging 7 years behind the Anno Mundi year. But this just happens to line up with 1948 BC. I mean, what are the odds that this should happen by chance? In other words, 1948 BC is 2023 Anno Fall and 2030 Anno Mundi. That just blows my mind. Another thing that I found, so people have looked back throughout the last 6,000 years, and in like astronomy programs like Stellarium, and tried to see if the Revelation 12 sign ever happened prior to 2017. Excuse me. And it actually has, twice. And so the first time was on, July 28th, 3974 BC, on or around the Feast of Trumpets, which just happens to lie right here in the middle of the time that Adam and Eve spent in the Garden of Eden, which is amazing. What are the odds, right? That's another kind of like I say, not a proof, but it's like a really strong confirmation to me. It's like throwing a dart just happens to land right in the middle of the dartboard, right? It just happens to be right in the middle of where we see through this spreadsheet the period of the Garden of Eden was. And like I mentioned, there is another Revelation 12 sign. So there's actually 3 in total. So there's the 2017 one, then there's this one in the middle of the time of the Garden of Eden. And then there's, I don't remember exactly at the moment, but it was something like 50 years after this one. There's another one. So when I say Revelation 12 sign, I'm referring to the full, it has to have the crown of 12 stars, and then the 9-month gestation, if you will, of Jupiter in the belly of Virgo, right? So that's what, those are the minimum thing, and then of course the moon under her feet and the sun over her shoulder. So those are the minimum characteristics to qualify as the Revelation 12 sign. And there are, like I said, only 3 within this 6,000 year time span. So in addition to the 2017 one and then this one in the Garden of Eden, there's one more, and it's something like 50 years after the first one. But then after that, nothing again until 2017 AD. So that's kind of interesting why there's just that extra one sort of hanging out there. It's almost like a reminder of something God put out there for Adam and Eve in case they were too busy tilling the garden there, then didn't notice the first one. Here's another reminder of God's plan for redemption in this, written in the stars. All right, so that's pretty much all I wanted to say about this spreadsheet. I can't really think of anything else to say about it. And if anybody wants a copy of it, just let me know in the comment section, and I will try and post it somewhere. So getting back to Jericho. Yeah, so I'm thinking, based on this information, if this is, something that actually is being encoded in that chapter, that it looks like Heshvan is the month for the Rapture. Of course, that's based on the 1-month offset calendar, which, like I said, is going through December 14th, so basically till the end of Hanukkah. So I guess let's take a look at the calendar here. And yeah, so what I do to get the true 8th month is I just go to Torah calendar and I look at the 9th month, and I look at their calendar for the 9th month. So yeah, this is right. You can see here it started on 16th of November, and 14th of December is the last day of the month of Heshvan, which is, I guess, what, day 5 of Hanukkah? I don't even know how long Hanukkah is. It's 7 days? So anyway, what are my high watch days? So we're looking at... okay, we're looking at the 23rd, first of all. Yeah, so that's because the 23rd is... November 23rd on the Gregorian calendar is November 11th on the Julian calendar. Okay, so that's 11/11. So that's a numerically significant date, and a lot of people have been seeing 11/11. Maybe that's why. It also happens to be on the official Jewish calendar. It's the 11th day of the 9th month, right? The 11th day of Kislev, which is a 9/11 date. So that's also a numerically significant date. So 11th day of the 9th month on the official Jewish calendar, 9/11. And then on the 24th, okay, so November 23rd to 24th, sunset to sunset. I'm looking, let's see, why am I looking at that? No, wrong, sorry. November 24th to 25th, okay, sunset to sunset is the 10th, right, of Heshvan, according to the corrected calendar. And that should be obvious, why that's significant. That's the date that Noah entered the ark. So that's obviously a high watch date. And then we're also looking for the same reason at the 17th of Heshvan, right? Because that's 7 days, after. In other words, that's the date that the flood started, Heshvan 17, and that's December 1st through December 2nd, sunset to sunset. Okay, so we're also looking at Heshvan 11, which is the 25th to the 26th, sunset to sunset, because it's an 8/11 date, right? So it's the 11th because it's the 11th day of the 8th month. It also happens to be the 41st day, right? And what I mean by that is, according to the Book of Jubilees, Eve entered the garden after Adam. She had to have she had some purification time, right? So she entered the garden after 40 days of purification. So she entered on the 41st day. So if Adam entered, or if Adam entered on the 1st of Tishri, so the 11th of Heshvan would be the 41st day. So that would be the day that Eve entered the garden. And so the 41st day here would be exactly to the day 6,000 years since Eve entered the garden. And so are we going to be entering heaven to be with the last Adam as his bride exactly 6,000 years after Eve entered the Garden of Eden to be with the first Adam as his bride? It's a fascinating possibility. All right, so what's the next watch date? Well, let's take a look at the official Jewish calendar. So here we're looking at December, and I want to look specifically at the 27th and the 28th of Kislev. The reason I'm looking at those dates is that in Genesis 7:17 it says that the flood started and then it rained for 40 days and 40 nights, after which the ark was lifted off the earth, which is an obvious rapture parallel for the believers being lifted off the earth in the ark of Jesus Christ. So what does that correspond to here on the Gregorian date? So it looks like December 10th through 11th. And what this is really showing you is December 9th sunset to December 11th sunset. And the reason I include both of these dates here is that I'm not sure if you're counting 40 days from... So first of all, I'm counting 40 days from Heshvan 17, which is the flood start date, but It's the official Jewish calendar version of Heshvan 17. Okay. Anyway, so I'm not sure if you include Heshvan 17 in that 40-day count. So if you do include it, then it would be on Kislev 27. If you don't, it's Kislev 28. But either way, that's the target zone. But in truth, we're really just looking at the period from now to roughly the end of Hanukkah as a really, really extremely high watch period for the rapture. I mean, we are just in the target zone for the rapture in so many ways. We're pretty certain that it's 2023 based on a bunch of other Bible prophecies, and stuff, other things in the Bible which I can't get into, is just way too deep. And we're getting here towards the end of 2023 and the end of meaningful dates in 2023 in terms of being related to the rapture typologically or something like that. So I think that every day that passes at this point that the rapture hasn't occurred, it just becomes so much more likely that the coming days are going to be the day that the rapture occurs. And like Jesus says, it's just going to come so suddenly. It's just going to happen like that, and then that's it, and then it's over. So I probably don't need to say this to anybody watching this video because this is sort of a technical rapture video, but just make sure you have that relationship with Jesus Christ and you're trusting in his blood for your salvation, and make sure you talk to your friends, family, acquaintances, everybody urge them to get into that relationship with Jesus Christ so they can be saved and not have to go through this 7 years of hell on earth. And yeah, so I guess that's it. If you guys like the video, give me a like, and definitely look forward to your comments. If you guys have any ideas, if you think my idea here on Jericho is makes any sense, or if it's just nonsense. And thanks for watching.